All right, so my name is Nathan. I teach computer science classes. Generally speaking, I teach the introduction and advanced programming classes. Generally speaking, that's the intro to Python, intro to C++, and then I teach the data structures class in C++. I went to UC San Diego for my undergrad, and I went to USC for my master's program. I taught at USC for 11 years, and I'm very new here to SMC. This is my second semester here.
What is your favorite thing about computer science?
I like that in computer science you have to keep track of multiple levels of detail at the same time. You have to have the big picture in which you understand the direction that you're going on, and at the same time you need to be able to execute on the minutia. You have to have your semicolon in the right place. You have to have your parentheses in the right place. And being able to keep those several layers in your mind at the same time makes computer science both challenging and very rewarding.
What is the first thing you think about each time you lecture?
I get nervous before I lecture, every time. It doesn't change. Public speaking is always a little nerve-wracking. Generally speaking, I think that I need to connect with each of the students, not the class as a whole, but the individual students. And I always try to add a little bit of humor or something like that to the class, just so that I make sure to keep students engaged if I get a little boring.
If you were able to reflect on your journey and choose industry or academia, which and why?
So the question is industry or academia, and I would say both. I would think that the students think I'm a better teacher for having had those 12 or 14 years in industry as a full-time programmer and consultant. And I think that my time part-time consulting while I was teaching helped inform what I was doing in the classroom to make sure that I maintained my industry relevance. Generally speaking, I think that students should be focusing on getting a job, and so I try to teach my classes in that way. And I wouldn't be able to do that had I not spent some time in industry.
How did you decide to enter this field?
I started out a mechanical engineering major. I thought I was going to build cars. And I took my first programming class, a Fortran class, required for the mechanical engineering degree, and I loved it. I took the next class that was optional in the series, and decided I was going to do computer science for the rest of my life, that I was going to be a programmer. And so I took a series of programming classes at UCSD and was able to get my first job at Ericsson in San Diego.
How do you keep a work-life balance?
So one of the things that I'm pretty strict about is SMC gets me from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, meaning that after 8 p.m. I am not available to students. I don't answer questions. I don't do any work stuff. Generally speaking, on the weekends I'm a little bit more flexible, that I have more time to myself rather than more time to the students. But generally speaking, keeping those strict 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. is how I maintain my work-life balance.
What are office hours?
So college tips, what are office hours? Office hours are required. Office hours are time that you should schedule in your calendar to make sure that you can attend, especially for classes that you struggle in. Office hours, depending on the instructor, may be just a time for you to come in and ask a question. For somebody like me, I tend to hold them in a classroom so that students can come in, ask a question, and then go work on their own without having to come to me for another question. Students oftentimes find that I'm a security blanket. They don't need me, but they feel more comfortable with me in the room, so that if they have a question, they can ask. One of the other neat things about office hours is when you have 5 or 6 students all in office hours, one may go up and ask a question, come back and start working, then you can lean over to your friend and say, hey, I'm on that part too, what did he say? So generally speaking, there is not just time to interact with the instructor, but also time to interact with other students, and it's a much smaller venue, sometimes 5 or 6 students, sometimes just one.
Why should a student attend office hours?
Why should they attend office hours? I don't know about all instructors, but my classes are hard. And so by attending office hours for a class that's hard, you might get help, tips, and tricks that you might not otherwise get if you didn't attend office hours.
What is the best question you have received during office hours?
What is the best question? Why, Nathan? Just why? No. The best question that I oftentimes get are deeper questions than just what is the answer to my question. I oftentimes say that the most important thing that a student can learn in a class may not be on the syllabus. It may be about time management skills. It may be about the idea that you might be able to do well in the class, but just don't have the time or ability to commit to those kinds of things. Sometimes it's having an honest conversation with a student and saying, I know you enjoy this, but it's taking you 3 or 4 times as long as it's taking other people to. I love pool, and I am horrible at it. I don't want to go into a job where I have to play pool, and it takes me 5 or 10 times as much time as it takes other people to do the same thing. So I want to choose a direction that is both something that is easy for me and something that I enjoy doing.
To be successful in computer science, students should
To be comfortable in computer science, students should be stubborn. They need to be more stubborn than the problems that I'm asking them. They need to they need to enjoy problem-solving skills. So the idea is they need to enjoy problem solving. So oftentimes you're coming across a line of code and there's a bug in it. I highly encourage students to not skip it and go on to the next part, because that buries the bug and makes it harder and harder to find it later. Instead, stop where you are, give up the idea that this is the most frustrating thing that you're doing in your life, and work through the problem, because it always is more rewarding to find out, to get something right after you struggle through it a little bit.
How many hours would you recommend for STEM students to study outside of the class?
So outside of the class, I would say you at least double, maybe even triple the number of units in the class. So for example, my classes are 3 units, so I would say at minimum it should be 6 hours outside of class, sometimes as much as 9. But it kind of depends on whether or not you come in across a bug. You might have a bug and it takes you 2 hours to see the bug, and all of a sudden you realize it's where a semicolon is missing and you didn't see it. So sometimes it's 2 hours to find one character. And so in that way, it's hard to tell across the board. I think that one of the best things you can do as a freshman and sophomore is take some hard classes to see what the time commitment is for you, and then adjust throughout the semester and your time at school to say, this class is going to take X amount of hours, and so I need to spend more time for it, and therefore take a lighter load in my other classes.
How do students get a letter of recommendation?
How do students get a letter of recommendation? The first thing to do is to ask the instructor and to give them plenty of time to write the letter. So I would normally like at least 2 weeks, if not longer. The second thing is take at least 1 semester with the instructor. Don't do it halfway through the semester, because I can't talk about your overall performance. I can't talk about your overall grade. Consider who you're asking. So if you've cheated in my class, chances are you're not going to get a good letter. If you have had behavior problems in class, you probably shouldn't ask. The other thing is know to take the no if they're going to give it to you. So there have been times that I've said to students, I don't know that I can write an enthusiastic letter for you. I'm not saying no, but I'm telling the student that it's not going to be a great letter. If I agree to it, and if I say I'd be happy to write you a letter, then I'm going to say things like I strongly recommend this student, or in one letter I said I'm disappointed to recommend this student because it means that I'm not going to have them next semester. So there are times that I'm overly positive about the student, but generally speaking, make sure that you give us enough time and make sure that you've had at least one class with us so we can talk about your performance throughout the semester.
How can STEM students recover from burnout?
Spring break is always a good start. Thanksgiving break, those kinds of things. But in the end, burnout comes from a bad work-life balance. And so if you're working a job while you're taking classes, while you're trying to be a parent or something like that, burnout is definitely going to be something that you may deal with. And so it's important to understand not just your limits, but what you're comfortable doing. It may be pushing your limit, but going against your limit all the time is going to result in burnout. Instead, break things into small pieces and don't take 3 or 4 classes a semester. Take 1 or 2 to start out, to see what you're capable of, and then to adjust accordingly.
What's the most valuable lesson you've learned from failing?
I was in my 4th year as a computer science student at UCSD. I was taking a 5th year. And I was taking my Introduction to Electrical Engineering, which was a required class by the major. I had failed it the prior semester and was taking it again and was about to fail it again. I didn't learn well from the instructor, and it was the only person who taught the class. So I had 2 Fs, somebody else taught it, some new instructor, never been at UCSD before. And I took the class with her and I got an A-. And I learned that I'm not stupid, I just need a really good teacher in order to understand some of the more difficult concepts.
What is your go-to song or podcast to listen to on your weekend?
I like the Bob and Tom Show. Bob and Tom is a show out of Indianapolis. They focus on comedy, so I love to laugh, and they have comedians in from all over the country who are touring and stop in Indianapolis to do their show. They're from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So if you're getting up at 6 a.m. to do a show, you better be entertaining.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
If I could have any superpower, it would be the ability to find anything. Do you have any idea how long I spend looking for my keys in the morning? But more importantly, I could find the winning lottery ticket. I could find the lost city of Atlantis. I could find all sorts of stuff. I wouldn't want to fly or something like that. That's boring. I could make a living out of finding stuff for people.
I'm just gonna ask you like that.
Uh-huh.
What's a hidden talent, skill you have that most people don't know about?
I'm taking piano lessons right now. I've been taking piano lessons for about 18 months. And I really think that it's good to remember what it's like to be a student by taking piano lessons or just learning anything. I would say that learning to program is like learning to play an instrument in that you get better at it by practice. It's a skill. And I really like sitting there with a teacher and have her say something to me, and I look up at her and say, oh, that's what it's like to hear that as a student. Is it pronounced Euler or Euler? I would probably pronounce it Euler if I was reading it for the first time, and then be corrected to call it Euler, and then piss off whoever I was talking to and just call it Euler the rest of the time.
AI is going to take over the world.
All right, so yeah, I can do that.
Yeah,
I got a good take. Right. So is AI going to take over the world? If it is, it's not going to be in my lifetime. So the AI that we have out there right now is generative AI. It generates something that you want to hear, which means a couple of things. The first thing is that if it hasn't seen it before, AI studies the internet, and based on what the internet is, it takes a particular topic and it says, statistically speaking, what is the first word in that answer? All right. Now, given that's the first word, statistically speaking, what is the second word in the answer? It's not telling you an answer per se to your question. It's more given this prompt, generating the percentages, what would be the thing that you would want to hear? Then the other thing is that AI is trying to tell you what you want to hear. It's looking for that upvote, say, this is a good response. So if you're looking for something to contradict your presuppositions or anything like that, it's not going to give you a response. It's not at least going to give you a response that you're going to upvote. So it's instead going to skew towards what you'll upvote. Another thing about AI is that AI works by studying the internet and based on what it is, compiling a set of percentages. What is more likely to be the response than other things? And one of the problems that we're having right now is that AI is generating websites. I don't know what the number is, but let's say 10% of the internet is AI generated. That means that that AI generated content is now being fed back into the AI learning tool in order to come up with the next version of ChatGPT. And if you're using your output to be input to your next prompt, it's going to be worse and worse over time. Um, I think that the AI that we should at least be concerned about is more general purpose or overall intelligence. These would be AIs that are not generative. You think of the road years away from that, decades away.
Okay. Do we go to Mars?
Do we go to Mars? I mean, not right now, but I think we can eventually. Uh, Whether or not it's something that's worthwhile, I think it is. Not necessarily the process of the goal of, but some of the things that we develop along the way. Uh, Great example is when the U.S. went to the moon. We had two options. The pens that we use right now, the normal ballpoint pen, didn't work in zero gravity. So we could either use a pencil or put the work in to develop a technology such that we have pens that can write in zero gravity. We developed a zero gravity pen. Russia went with the pencil.
If you had to give advice to yourself when you first started in this career and or as a student, what would you say?
If I had to give myself advice, I'll do both of them as a student and in my careers. Um, as a student, I would say you're not stupid. You just had bad teachers, and it's important to learn how you learn, and then kind of customize your college experience to that. Uh, if I were to speak to myself when I was working a corporate job, it would be you work for the company and the company doesn't care about you. So don't be upset if you get laid off. That happened to me twice. It wasn't about me doing bad work, it was about the company managing operational expenses.
What is your opinion on students focusing only on the grade and not caring about learning?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think that if you're focused on the grade, you must be a pre med student. Uh, Generally speaking, I'm more focused on students learning. I'm okay with you doing poorly at the beginning of the semester, only to turn it around. Some of the concepts that I cover are really very difficult to understand. And so it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks. Generally speaking, that first week or second week might not do as well on homework or tests. But as long as you get it in the end, that's more important than your overall learning. And maybe teacher take into account your progress for the semester, and instead of grade reflect your raw performance in the class, maybe they can take a more holistic view.
Describe the subject you teach in one word.
Program.
Describe community college in one word.
Hope.
Describe STEM students in one word.
Fun.
Woohoo!
All right.
What an asshole. Oh my.